Yeah, my name's Gareth Lambe. I lead Facebook's operations here in Ireland. This is our international headquarters, where we have 6,000 people working for us here, directly and indirectly. We have a data center, a virtual reality research office, and our main international headquarters here in Dublin. So I've been at Facebook 10 years. Well, I mean, it's been an incredible story of growth. It started in our rented service space at Glandor with a landing team of like 20 or 30 people. Fast forward 12 years and we've 6,000 people, 3,000 direct employees, and another 3,000 agency and contractors. So if you think about that scaling and that growth over 10, 12 years, and everything that comes with that in terms of, we were a private company, then an IPO, and multiple new apps and services like WhatsApp and Instagram and Oculus. So just scaling to that amount of employees, in particular that amount of diverse international employees with over 100 nationalities in our operation here, has been quite the journey, as you can imagine, professionally and personally. I mean, we started off when I joined the company 10 years ago, we were the blue app, Facebook. And, the first acquisition was a kind of similar type product in Instagram, which is another social media and newsfeed product. Then we moved a little bit further away into messaging, private messaging with WhatsApp. But then I think Oculus was a much bigger change for the company because it's actually a hardware virtual and augmented reality product where the main use case is, hardcore gamers. But obviously our view of the world is the application of that goes way beyond gaming into education, biotech, and obviously communications. So, there's sort of adjacent businesses, but getting a little bit more kind of futuristic, if you like, as you get closer to hardware away from our social media and messaging apps. Yeah, so I mean, I personally have been in technology for over 20 years. I started off in a startup called pigsback.com, which some Irish people may be familiar with. I think right, a successful company founded by Michael Dwyer. But then I moved into the multinational technology side with PayPal. And I moved from there to Facebook in 2011, mostly because I was just fascinated with the platform and especially the advertising and marketing opportunities for brands, because that was my background. So that was one of the things that motivated me to move to Facebook, as it was just starting to expand internationally, really, at the beginning of the last decade. Facebook started off as just, a Harvard platform, and then moved to universities, then moved to US, and then moved international. So to coincide with that international move, they needed an international base. And like a lot of US companies, Europe is the first port of call, because only 5% of the world's population is in the US. So if you want to expand internationally, you've got to get a kind of bridgehead into other markets. So Europe is obviously the next largest market after the US, and Ireland, as you know, is a natural beachhead into Europe for so many US multinationals, because we're English speaking in the Euro, we're a very educated workforce, we're very pro-business policies from our government, including taxation. So there's a lot of reasons we set up in Ireland. But one of the reasons also was that a lot of our early Facebook executives had come from Google, who had had a very positive experience setting up in Ireland as well. So there was a multitude of reasons why we set up in Ireland. And we started with a landing team of 20 or 30 people in Glandor, in the Fitzwilliam Hall office there on Leeson Bridge, where you guys still are. I know you've expanded a lot since then. But we started with a small office there, everyone squashed in, just a paper sign at the door. The teams didn't even have enough pencils and pens. We were cadging them off you guys in Glandor to have enough papers and pens. So we started there with the 20 to 30 people. And, you fast forward 10, 12 years and we have over 6,000 people. We're just expanding now into a campus in Ballsbridge, the former AIB headquarters, which is a 14-acre campus with room for 7,000 full-time employees. So, that first year in Glandor is a really important part of the Facebook origin story in Ireland, and it still has a lot of kind of cultural relevance for our oldest employees, longest serving, I should say, not oldest, our longest serving employees who go back and tell stories about those times in Glandor. In that year we were in Glandor, we actually had a visit from our Chief Operating Officer, Cheryl Sandberg. So she graced the serviced offices there. And I remember my PA, Claire Adams, who's our longest serving employee in Ireland, tells the story of how Cheryl Sandberg flew in and she wanted to have a shower. And we did have a shower. You guys always had stuff in the beginning, but our teams weren't using it. So Claire had to run down to Marks and Spencer's to get towels and shower gel and all the rest of it for Cheryl to have a shower before coming into our first international offices, which was in Glandor's service space. So yeah, it goes right back to our beginning of our Facebook in Ireland origin story. Yeah, so I think, you know, one of the important things about starting off for any company, especially in a new country or region, is setting the culture from the beginning. So, you know, when we started off in Glandor in that serviced office with this landing team of 20 or 30 people, it was really important to get the right people in first. You know, there's an expression out there, I don't know who coined it, but it's, you know, don't hire for roles, just hire people. So it was really important to hire the right people with the right cultural mindset to sort of set our stall down for the culture of the office as we grew it. And part of that is, of course, bringing some people from head office in Palo Alto at the time, and them being part of that landing team, but also bringing the right people in culturally from the beginning. So I think getting that right was really important. And actually, a lot of the little traditions and cultural things we used to do in the Glandor office are still, you know, prevalent in Facebook now as you know, as we move forward. So that was all really important. All our changes, the suppliers we had, you know, the guy who used to bring us our food, Gavin Prendergast, to the urban picnic, as it later became, brought us the food there to the offices in Glandor. He grew with Facebook and ended up, you know, providing the food and the staff for thousands of employees in our large office. So I think it's important to realize that it's not just the growth of these companies that can grow from small kernels into big, you know, multinationals. It's also the suppliers that can grow with them. And I think Gavin Prendergast of Urban Picnic, our food caterer and supplier, is a really good example of that. So I think your suppliers, as well as your early employers, your locations, your offices, all those kind of choices you make are really important. And thankfully, you know, we got a lot more of those right than we did wrong. Well, the future of work for Facebook, we're still working it out. You know, like a lot of companies, we're still figuring it out. I'm inclined to think there's not that much upside to being a really first mover on this. You know, we've been in offices for hundreds of years or 150 years. We don't need to have all the solution fully baked in a few short weeks or months, but certainly, like a lot of other, you know, certain multinational tech companies, will be moving to a hybrid model where there's a lot more flexibility, where we'll probably have more like 50% you know, time in the office and 50% out. Will allow more remote work for those people who want it full time. Will probably over time allow a little bit more cross-border movement. So it's going to change quite significantly, but there will always be a place for an office in our organization for collaboration and culture building and early employees, all that kind of thing. So it's going to evolve, but we're going to test and learn as we go and iterate, including next year. Specifically here in Ireland, we're in the process at the moment of completing the construction and fit out of our new 14-acre campus in Ballsbridge, the former home of AIB. So that's, you know, really exciting to be moving in there. And already we're adjusting the design of it for a post-COVID world that will have, I guess, less of a premium on individual desk spaces and more on collaboration and meeting spaces and that sort of thing. So it's also going to affect the layout of our offices. And then the last thing I'd say in the future of work is, you know, one of our divisions is virtual and augmented reality. And while the main use case at the moment is hardcore gamers, we see one of the earliest mainstream applications of VR and AR being in the workplace, whereby meetings will have augmented reality overlays, which will, you know, increase the productivity and effectiveness and enjoyment, frankly, of a traditional video conference call. The workplace is more sort of confined and regulated and safe space before you get out onto the streets with these new technologies. So I think the workplace is going to be one of the first places that's transformed by virtual and augmented reality.